The quiet power of keeping things to yourself. There are parts of life that are meant to be lived, not displayed. As we grow older, the desire to be seen often gives way to the need for peace. Why should some things remain unspoken? Because not everything needs to be explained. And not everyone deserves a front row seat to your inner world. Revealing personal matters, whether it's your age, finances, health, or relationships, can invite assumptions, judgment, or even pity. For instance, simply sharing your age may cause others to see you as less capable. No matter how sharp your mind or full your heart still is, mentioning your wealth might change how people treat you. Disclosing your struggles could open doors to unwanted sympathy. The consequences aren't always loud, but they linger. Strained relationships, lost respect, or the quiet discomfort of being misunderstood. By keeping some things private, you protect your dignity. You hold onto your sense of self in a world quick to label, compare, and categorize. Privacy isn't about hiding, it's about preserving what matters most. It's the calm of knowing your life belongs to you, not to others' opinions or expectations. In the end, the value of discretion lies not in secrecy, but in self-respect. What we choose to keep to ourselves often reflects the deepest kind of wisdom that doesn't need applause to feel whole. So what are the things worth keeping to yourself as you age? And why do they matter more now than ever before? Let's gently explore those questions in the chapters that follow. 1. Why your age is no one's business. There's a quiet strength in choosing not to share your age. While it may seem like a harmless detail, in many situations, it becomes a shortcut for others to make assumptions about your energy, your competence, or your future. Why should a number define your potential or the way others treat you? The truth is, age often becomes a label, and once it's spoken, it can be hard to shake. In American culture, youth is often celebrated more loudly than wisdom. Because of this, older adults can feel overlooked or underestimated once they reveal their age. You might notice the subtle shift in tone, the way someone starts explaining things more slowly, or offering help you didn't ask for. It's rarely meant to be unkind, but it still changes the way you're seen. Think about a conversation where someone finds out you're in your 70s. They may smile politely, but inside, they begin drawing conclusions. Is she still working? Can he still drive at night? Should we include them in this trip, or would it be too much? These questions, though unspoken, shape how you're included or left out. Even in professional or social settings, revealing your age can unintentionally limit opportunities. People may assume you're out of touch or not interested in learning new things. They might bypass you for projects, conversations, or plans, not because you've said no, but because they've decided for you. That quiet erasure happens not out of malice, but out of mistaken kindness or misjudged concern. But here's the deeper truth. Age is not the most important thing about you. Your thoughts, your presence, your kindness, your humor, those speak louder. When you choose not to share your age, you give yourself space to be seen for who you are, not how long you've lived. You remind others to value your words, not your birth year. Privacy, in this case, is not about being secretive. It's about reclaiming how you're perceived. It allows you to enter a room without being filtered through assumptions. It keeps the focus on your ability, your vitality, your unique story. And beyond how others see you, there's an internal peace in keeping some things your own. When you stop focusing on the number, you stop counting in a way that limits. You start living in the moment, measuring your life by depth instead of duration. Because what matters isn't how many years you've had, it's how fully you've lived them. So perhaps the next time someone asks your age, you'll pause. Not to hide, not out of shame, but because you've learned. Some things carry more power when they're left unsaid. As we grow more mindful of how others perceive our age, the same care is needed when it comes to how we speak about our finances. 2. Why your finances deserve privacy. Money touches every part of life, yet it's one of the most personal subjects we carry. Why should your financial situation remain private? Because once shared, it often shifts how others see you, whether they mean to or not. The moment you open that door, you invite assumptions, expectations, and comparisons that can quietly erode your sense of peace. In American culture, where success is frequently measured by income or possessions, Conversations about money can feel loaded. Say you mention having a comfortable retirement fund. It might seem harmless, but others may begin to expect you to contribute more in group settings, cover costs without asking, or say yes to favors you never agreed to. On the other hand, if you mention financial struggles, even casually, people might pity you, judge your past decisions, or begin treating you with unwanted concern. What's more, even within families, sharing too much about your finances can shift the dynamic. A sibling may grow resentful. An adult child may rely too heavily on your support. A friend may distance themselves, feeling unequal. These consequences often unfold slowly, not through harsh words, but through changes in tone, in expectation, in closeness. The question is not whether you trust these people, it's whether their knowledge will change the relationship. Because money, though neutral on its own, can complicate even the most well-meaning connections. That's why keeping your financial life private isn't about being secretive. It's about protecting the quiet space where dignity and independence live. There is value in knowing your worth without needing to prove it. Whether you've built a life of modest means or financial abundance, what truly defines you is not your account balance, but how you carry yourself, how you treat others, and what values you uphold. Privacy lets you lead with those things, not numbers. Think of the phrase, money talks, but wealth whispers. There's wisdom in that. When your finances stay yours alone, you're free from outside pressures and free to give, save, or spend in ways that feel right to you, not based on what others think you should do. Keeping your money matters private also shields you from being boxed in. People won't project their hopes or assumptions onto you. They won't plan around your wallet. They'll see you as a whole person, not a potential lender, a safety net, or a success story to compare themselves to. In the end, the greatest gift of financial privacy is the peace it brings. It allows you to walk through the world with quiet confidence, to enjoy what you have without explanation, and to help when you choose, not when you feel pressured. That is a kind of freedom no dollar amount can buy. Beyond money, the most delicate ties often lie within our families, and some of those bonds are best protected by silence. 3. Family matters deserve quiet. Some things belong within the walls of a home, and family conflicts are one of them. Why should personal family matters remain private? Because once shared, they no longer belong just to you. They become open to opinions, judgments, and interpretations from people who do not carry the full story or the emotional weight behind it. It may feel natural to speak about disagreements with a sibling, a child's choices, or a long-standing resentment. But what begins as venting can easily turn into gossip, and once a family's private tension is placed into public hands, it rarely returns the same. Others begin to form opinions. They take sides, offer advice, or simply view your family with a different lens, often one that lacks empathy. Imagine telling a close friend about a falling out with your adult daughter. The next time that friend sees her, their kindness may come with a subtle edge, or worse, pity. Even if the conflict heals, the outside impression may not. This lingering perception can create distance and discomfort, not just between you and your family, but between your loved ones and the world around them. The important thing is not whether your feelings are valid, they are. It's whether sharing those feelings beyond the family helps resolve them. More often than not, it doesn't. It simply shifts the pain from personal to public, complicating healing and adding layers of misunderstanding. By choosing to keep family matters private, you're not pretending everything is perfect. You're protecting the possibility of reconciliation. You're preserving the dignity of those you care about, even when emotions are raw, and you're giving yourself space to process, reflect, and respond without pressure from others. There's also wisdom in allowing time to soften hard feelings. Conversations once fueled by frustration may look different with distance. Privacy offers that space. It slows the reaction, gives room for grace, and makes peace feel more possible. Family, like life, is rarely without conflict, but there's a difference between struggling together and pulling others into watch. The more we protect what's tender, the more we give it a chance to grow. In the quiet of discretion, we preserve trust. We keep safe what is fragile. We remember that love, even when tested, deserves the chance to heal without an audience. That is not secrecy, it is respect. And in a world quick to share, quick to judge, there is power in choosing not to. There is strength in a family that keeps its roots strong, even when its branches sway. Just as family matters deserve privacy, so too does our health, which is often more personal than we let on. 4. Health is personal, not public. There's a quiet dignity in choosing what to share and what to keep to yourself. Among the most personal matters is your health. Why should details about your medications or treatments remain private? Because once health becomes a conversation topic, it often stops being about care and starts being about concern, assumption, or even quiet judgment. When someone mentions their prescriptions or a recent diagnosis, the reaction is rarely neutral. Friends may offer advice you didn't ask for. Acquaintances may begin treating you with extra caution. People mean well, but intentions do not always match outcomes. A casual mention of joint pain might bring a stream of miracle remedies. A reference to blood pressure meds might spark questions about diet, activity, or past habits. In trying to be helpful, others may forget the most important thing: respect for your space. Why is this a problem? Because over time, it can change how people interact with you. You may find yourself being spoken to differently. Invitations to activities might slow. People might assume you're fragile, even if you feel steady and strong. Suddenly, you're not being seen for your whole self but for your condition. Privacy allows you to preserve that wholeness. It lets you define who you are, beyond symptoms or pill bottles. More importantly, it lets you choose how much of your story to tell and when. That choice, however small it may seem, is an act of self-respect. There's also an emotional cost to constantly revisiting medical issues. Talking about your health too often can keep worries close to the surface. It reinforces anxiety rather than easing it. Sometimes, the best way to care for yourself is to draw a line gentle, but firm around what is yours alone. Of course, sharing with trusted loved ones or healthcare providers is different, but broadcasting every diagnosis, every prescription, to casual friends or social circles rarely serves your well-being. Instead, it can create a version of you that feels narrowed, reduced to a diagnosis. What's the alternative? Quiet confidence. You take your medicine, attend your appointments, care for your body, and go on living. Not as the person with this condition, but as yourself. The person who still laughs, still contributes, still has stories to tell that have nothing to do with doctors or test results. The important thing is not to deny or hide your health, but to protect its place in your life. You are not your illness. You are not your treatment plan. You are everything that still thrives around it. In that understanding, there's freedom. And in that freedom, a quiet kind of strength that doesn't need to be explained, only lived. If our health reflects how we care for ourselves, intimacy reflects how we connect, and both call for quiet respect. 5. Intimacy is sacred at every age. There are certain parts of life that deserve to stay between just two people. Among them, intimacy holds a quiet and deeply personal place. Why should your romantic or sexual life remain private? Because intimacy loses part of its depth when it's made into conversation. The more we speak of it publicly, the easier it becomes for something sacred to be misunderstood or misjudged. In a culture that often speaks freely about youth, attraction, and relationships, the intimate lives of older adults are either overlooked or treated with discomfort. This silence from society does not mean these experiences vanish with age. They may, in fact, grow more meaningful. But when shared too casually, those experiences can be met with awkwardness or assumptions that miss the truth of what intimacy truly is: connection, trust, vulnerability, and care. Imagine mentioning a new romantic relationship in a group setting. It might invite smiles, but it can also bring quiet glances, questions, or even teasing. People may not mean harm, but they may not know how to respond with respect. Worse, they may make light of something that is deeply important to you. Over time, this can cause you to feel exposed or misunderstood. The same can happen within families. Adult children may feel uncomfortable or try to interfere. Friends may pry for details or offer unsolicited opinions. And suddenly, what was once private becomes something others feel they can comment on or shape. That shift takes something that should remain between hearts and places it in the hands of outsiders. The important thing is not that intimacy should be hidden, it should be honored. There's a difference. Privacy gives it space to breathe, to grow quietly. It protects the tenderness that relationships in later life so often bring. When you keep your love life private, you don't lessen its value. You preserve it, because real closeness doesn't need an audience. What matters most happens in the quiet shared glance, the familiar touch, the comfort of being seen by one person completely. That kind of bond is not improved by attention. It is deepened by trust and time. And if your relationship brings you joy, peace, or companionship, it doesn't need public approval to be meaningful. What you share with someone behind closed doors, emotionally or physically, can be one of life's greatest gifts, but only when it remains protected from the noise outside. So why keep your intimate life private? Because the world doesn't need to know to validate its worth. Because what's sacred is often most powerful when it's quiet. And because the heart deserves a space where it can be itself unwatched, unjudged, and undisturbed. And while personal connection is sacred, the way we give to others also speaks volumes suspiciously when done without seeking praise. 6. The quiet beauty of private giving. Not every good deed needs a spotlight. When we choose to give, whether it's money, time, or support, the act itself carries meaning far beyond recognition. Why should charitable acts be kept private? Because when giving becomes public, it can unintentionally shift the focus from kindness to credit. And something deeply human, deeply heartfelt, risks becoming a performance. There's a difference between helping and announcing that you helped. In a culture where social media and public praise are often intertwined, quiet generosity can feel almost invisible. But does that make it less meaningful? Or does it, perhaps, make it more genuine? Consider this. You quietly pay for someone's groceries when they're short at the register. You don't mention it to anyone. No one thanks you publicly. But you walk away knowing you offered relief, maybe even restored someone's dignity in a hard moment. Now imagine if that same act was shared as a story to others, even with good intentions. Suddenly, the spotlight shifts. It's no longer about the person in need, it's about the person who gave. When we publicize our generosity, even subtly, it can create unintended consequences. Others may feel pressured to give even when they can't. Some may question your intentions, wondering if your actions were meant to help or to be admired. And those receiving the help, they may feel exposed, even embarrassed. Pride, especially during difficult times, is a delicate thing. Respecting it is an act of compassion. The important thing is this: real giving doesn't need to be seen. Its value lies in the act itself, not in who knows about it. Quiet giving reflects not just generosity, but humility and understanding that kindness is most powerful when it asks for nothing in return. There's also a kind of freedom in private giving. You give without expectation. You're not waiting for applause or approval. You decide when, how, and a home guided by your values, not by social norms or outside opinions. That's the kind of giving that builds inner peace rather than public image. And in a world that often rewards noise, the quiet act can feel like a whisper, but it lingers longer. It stays in the heart of the person helped and in yours. That moment of human connection, silent, sincere, and unseen, may be one of the most meaningful parts of your life. So why keep charity private? Because dignity matters. Because true generosity doesn't need validation. And because when giving is done without an audience, it honors both the giver and the receiver in a way that words rarely can. Giving quietly shows humility, and so does choosing not to speak too often about one's accomplishments. 7. Honor is earned, not announced. Some accomplishments live best in silence. Why should personal achievements be kept private? Because true honor doesn't need to be declared. It reveals itself in the way you live, the way others speak of you when you're not in the room, and the quiet consistency of your actions over time. In a society that often equates visibility with value, the pressure to showcase success can feel ever present. You may be tempted to share stories of past triumphs, milestones, awards, sacrifices made for family or community. And while there is nothing wrong with being proud, the manner in which we carry our accomplishments matters just as much as the accomplishments themselves. When we speak too often or too loudly about what we've done, the effect can be unexpected. Instead of admiration, we may invite comparison or even quiet resentment. A conversation that begins in pride can leave others feeling small or excluded. It can shift the focus from shared understanding to silent competition. Consider someone who frequently reminds others of all they've contributed at work, in family life, or in public service. At first, people may listen with respect, but over time, repetition can dull the impact. What was once inspiring can feel self-serving, and when honor begins to feel like a request for validation, it loses its grounding. There's also a risk that constant self-recognition might narrow how people see you. You may be remembered not for the heart behind your actions, but for the effort spent reminding others of them. Quiet dignity, in contrast, leaves space for others to see your value on their own without being told. The important thing is this: your worth isn't measured by how often you speak of what you've done. It's reflected in how you carry yourself today. Humility allows your legacy to be shaped not by words, but by presence, by how you listen, support, and walk through life. Keeping your achievements private doesn't mean denying them. It means letting them live naturally in the way you show up, the guidance you give, and the wisdom you share when it's asked for, not when it's expected. That restraint doesn't diminish your success, it deepens it. And in the long view of life, what endures is not applause, but respect, not recognition, but trust, not the retelling of victories, but the quiet grace with which you hold them. Because the most meaningful honors are those that speak for themselves, and those are often heard most clearly in silence. But for every triumph, there may also be wounds, and how we carry past pain can shape how we move forward. 8. Letting go of old insults. There are wounds that never fully show but still shape the way we carry ourselves. That's why past insults, shows moments of humiliation, rejection, or unkindness are best kept private, not because they don't matter, but because revisiting them too often can reopen pain that's ready to rest. What is gained by retelling a hurt, especially when it's already been lived through once? Sharing past offenses might bring momentary comfort or validation. You may feel heard, even understood, but over time, the habit of repeating such stories can harden pain rather than heal it. It's easy to become defined by a memory that should have been left behind. And while sympathy might follow, it rarely leads to peace. Consider someone who often speaks of a former friend's betrayal or an unfair comment made years ago at work. At first, listeners may react with empathy, but as the story is told again and again, it begins to lose its impact. People may withdraw, unsure how to respond. Or worse, they may start to view you not through your present wisdom, but through an old wound that still hasn't closed. Why does this happen? Because holding on to hurt changes how we relate to others. It can make conversations heavy. It can place distance where closeness could have grown. And perhaps most quietly, it can leave us feeling like we're living in the past, even when life continues to move forward. The important thing is not to forget the hurt. It's to keep it in its rightful place, acknowledged, but not exposed, carried, but not broadcast. Healing often requires space, and dignity often requires silence. When we stop retelling what once harmed us, we give ourselves permission to build something new in its place. Letting go does not mean pretending nothing happened. It means deciding that you are more than what was said to you or done to you years ago. It means understanding that pain may shape your story, but it does not need to narrate your days. And it means honoring the quiet strength it takes to choose peace over proof. There is wisdom in protecting your emotional life as you would any fragile, valuable thing. Not every experience is meant to be shared. Some lessons are meant to settle softly, away from others' eyes and opinions. Because what you hold onto shapes you, and what you release makes space for calm, for clarity, for joy. The past may visit from time to time, but it doesn't have to stay. The real power lies not in remembering what someone said, but in choosing not to let it define who you are today. And in the quiet aftermath of pain, we often find strength in something even more private or personal: beliefs. 9. Your mantra, your quiet strength. Some beliefs are so deeply personal, they don't need to be explained. That's why your mantra, whether it's a phrase, a prayer, or a guiding thought, deserves a quiet place in your heart. Why should it remain private? Because the strength of a personal belief often lies in its intimacy. Once shared, especially too broadly, it can lose its grounding and be reduced to something others interpret, question, or dismiss. Your mantra is not meant to convince anyone else. It's meant to center you, especially in moments of uncertainty. When spoken aloud in the wrong setting, it can feel misunderstood, even trivialized. Someone may respond with skepticism or try to reshape it through their own lens. And then, what once brought clarity may start to feel fragile in the face of outside opinions. Consider a person who quietly repeats a phrase each morning, something that has helped them through grief, through change, through aging. If they choose to share it, they may be met with kindness, but they may also hear things like, "That's a bit too simple," or "I don't think that really works." What happens then? The connection to that mantra begins to shift. Doubt creeps in, not because the words are any less meaningful, but because the response casts a shadow. The important thing is not whether others agree with your belief, it's that it serves you. A personal mantra is a kind of compass, steady and silent. When kept close, it gives you direction without requiring permission. And in a noisy world full of opinions, having something that's truly your own is a form of peace. There's also dignity in not needing to explain what sustains you. You may carry a quiet faith, a line from a book, or even a lesson learned from a moment few others saw. These are the things that give shape to your inner life, knit for display, not for debate, but for strength. Sharing them may feel generous, but withholding them can be an act of deep self-respect. And isn't it true that the most enduring beliefs are not always the loudest? They live in how we act, how we treat others, how we return to stillness when the world around us is uncertain. These unspoken values guide us without ever needing to be named. So why keep your mantra private? Because it belongs to you. Because some truths grow stronger in silence. And because the most powerful sources of strength are often the ones others cannot see but you feel fully every day. When all is said and done, the choice of what to reveal and what to hold close defines the life we continue to shape with grace. The quiet wisdom of keeping some things to yourself. Not everything in life needs to be shared. Some truths, when spoken to often or too freely, lose the meaning they once carried. Why is it better to hold certain things close to your age, your finances, your beliefs, your hurts? Because the more we expose, the more we risk misunderstanding, judgment, or being seen through a narrower lens than we deserve. When we share too much, we sometimes invite others to draw conclusions we never intended. A number becomes a label. A kind gesture becomes a story. A private grief becomes public commentary. And slowly, our identity becomes shaped by others' views instead of our own. But when we choose to keep some things to ourselves, we reclaim the narrative. We preserve dignity. We allow healing. We give our relationships space to grow in understanding, not in assumption. Privacy is not distance, it's a boundary that honors your story, your values, your peace. The important thing is not to shut the world out. It's to decide, with care and grace, what belongs in the open and what deserves to remain yours alone. Because a life well lived is not measured by how loudly it's told, but by how deeply it's felt. In the end, the lesson is simple. Speak when it brings connection. Stay silent when it protects peace. And in that silence, you may find a kind of strength that words could never hold.